Hi and welcome to episode 66 of the This is Reportage podcast. My name is Alan Law. I'm the founder of This is Reportage and This is Reportage Family, and I'm a photographer too. Delighted to talk to the fab Lisa Hu Chen today. Lisa was joint fourth in the USA on This Reportage Family for 2020 with 5 Reportage Family Awards, and she's picked up another 3 since the start of 2021 as well. Not only is she a great photographer, but she's a superb writer too and has written some great inspirational pieces for us. As well as all that, she's just a delight to talk to. Stick with us today as Lisa shares all about her journey into photography, how she's invested in herself during the pandemic, her experience of feeling awkward in front of the camera and how she makes sure to make her own clients feel at ease, the story behind one of her specific Reportage Family Awards, 80s and 90s films, composing your frames intentionally, and so much more. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Hi, Alan. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. All good. All good. How's things with you?
Oh, things are really good. We're, obviously we're in the 3rd month of the new year, and things are starting to get a little bit better for us. I'm in California, so we've come out of we've dropped down a tier, so that's exciting. Things are starting to open up. I took my kids to a restaurant indoors the other day for the first time in like a year.
That must have been great.
It was really weird. But it was really nice. It was nice to, not have to do dishes and cook or anything like that. And to, talk to people outside of my family.
What food did you have? What kind of food?
We actually went to a vegan restaurant. Funny enough, my husband and I, for the new year, decided that we were going to try eating plant-based foods for 3 months just to see how, just to see the effects. And it's been really, really good so far. So, of course, the first restaurant we choose is a vegan restaurant. And my kids are like, what? But are
they doing it as well? Are your kids eating that as well?
I'm not making them, but I'm just offering it to them and saying, this is what you're going to get. And surprisingly, they've been eating it pretty, without any complaints. So I'm really happy. And, we talk about the effects of it and how it makes us feel better and everything. And I think they are really starting to understand just health and, that kind of lifestyle as a whole, which is great.
That's good.
Yeah. So we're not pushing it on them, but we're just trying to encourage it. And they've been on board so far.
Well, that's really good. That's what you want. I probably shouldn't say what I had last night then, because
No. Oh no, believe me, this is a temporary thing. So I'm sure we're gonna, go back to eating like normal. But it's very, for me, I've always loved vegetables and fruits much more than, meat or anything like that. So it's been a really fun experiment. For my husband, it's been a little bit harder. He's, loves meat and stuff, but he's really taken to the whole way of eating. So it's good.
Oh, that's cool. It must have so many health benefits.
It really does. Yeah. It does.
Oh, but last night, my wife, on the way back from her work, her car kind of broke down. She managed to get to the garage, and I came out with the kids to pick her up. And just as a little treat, we went to drive through McDonald's. This would be my first one for about 6 months, I think.
Oh my gosh.
But it was such a treat sitting in the car and having it. It was so nice.
Having it. Yep. McDonald's French fries are the best.
Oh, they are.
They're so good.
Love it. And how was 2020 though in general for you? How did you get through it? What has it been like in California where you are?
Yes. So where I am, it's we're lucky to have just great weather all year round. I'm in Southern California, and there's beaches and there's just mountains and all these places that you can sort of escape to clear your mind, which we did a lot in 2020. In terms of how strict everything was, it's over here it was a little bit it wasn't super strict, I think, like the rest of the world has been. Okay. But for my family, for us personally, we were really, really concerned about it because I live with my mom. She's in her mid 70s, and she's healthy and everything. But we just, for the first 6 or 8 months, we were really, really good about being at home and, doing all the things that, wearing a mask and all that stuff. So in that way, it allowed me to, be at home with my family, but also obviously work stopped completely for me.
Really? Okay.
didn't really have any jobs or anything like that. So I decided, it was kind of a conscious decision to, look into myself and try to grow myself in terms of, photography and my art. Right. So
Okay.
I ended up just, I had a mentorship, I took workshops, I did courses, I did a lot of online courses, and it's just completely, I think, changed the direction of my photography. I mean, I feel like I've grown so much from it. So in that way, in that way, it was a really, really good year for me. Not so much on the, not so much on the financial side, but more on the, make myself a better photographer side.
Okay. That's cool. It's mad how something can come along like a pandemic and it can have some pluses. It can have some pluses like that.
It did. I mean, the pluses are really, long-term wise, they're huge, right? Because in the short term, it was really hard. I mean, my kids all went to virtual school, and that was a hugely difficult transition for me as their mother teacher, because I'm not a teacher. So that was
how did you get on with that? How many were you having to homeschool? How many?
So I have 4 kids.
Oh, right. Okay.
I have a 2nd grader, a 4th grader, a 6th grader, and then an 11th grader, a junior.
Wow, right.
My 2 older ones are fine, 6th grade and 11th grade. They can handle themselves. Right. But my 2nd grader and my 4th grader, it was so hard for me. I just, having to teach math, something that I'm not good at, is not.
I get that
for my kids.
Yeah, I get them. Like my 9-year-old doing like long multiplication. I've had to look. I can't remember how to do long multiplication.
Seriously, and I'm one of those kids. When I was a kid, I had careless mistakes, and I do careless mistakes when I'm teaching my kids. So it's not a good thing. But we've had to shift our house around. We've had to create little, spaces for them to work through. It was just such a strange, like surreal experience. But in the end, I think it's really brought our family closer together, because my kids, as it turns out, are also homebodies as well. I mean, they went from, doing sports every weekend, like insanely, to absolutely nothing. And they seem to have come out of it okay, because we would just watch movies at night and, show them all the 80s movies and 90s movies that we grew up with and stuff like that. So
that sounds good.
Yeah, I think they, we just tried to make the best of it.
That's cool. And I totally get that as well. And I feel like it has brought us closer together. And I'm going to miss them, because this is the last 2 days of homeschooling now for my kids. They go back on Monday.
They are. Oh my goodness. Wow.
What about yours? I'm going to miss them, but I'm also going to see there are plus sides as well of them going back to school. Definitely.
Yes, like you need time for yourself.
Yes, time for myself and productivity as well. And just, not having to do long multiplication. That's Are yours back at school now?
So we had our school district actually never shut down since the beginning of the school year back in August. They gave all of the families choices. You could either do traditional 5 days a week school, you can do hybrid, which is twice a week going to school, or you can do virtual school, which is, you just work from home. And so we decided, because of our situation with my mom and everything, and we had no idea back then how long it was going to last, we just decided to have our kids do virtual school the whole year. So they're going to be here at home until the end of the school year. And,
we had the school year. Is that September or August?
It's June. It's June. That's right. We're on a completely different school system than you guys are. So our school starts in August and then it ends in June, and we have summer break.
We've got a few months left.
We have a few months left, but it's, now we're just in a groove. Like it's really, really, I'm actually able to do stuff like this, jump on a call or, do work because my kids are kind of used to it. But I'm going to miss them when they go back, and they're definitely going back next year. I mean, our school district, we don't know what's going to happen right now. They're taking it day by day, but I'm telling my husband, no matter what happens, they're going to school next year.
Understand that. Yeah, I understand that. And you mentioned how, though, for business wise, you weren't really able to do any shoots. Were you not able to do any shoots at all? No.
I did a few towards the end of the year. I started my photography business in 2017. I decided this is what I'm going to do. I sort of switched careers. Right. And so I had, pretty good years in 2018 and 2019. Like I was able to hit my goal and I, made more money than I had projected and all this stuff. And all of a sudden in 2020, it was like, stop, like everything just halted. And the momentum for me just kind of died. But luckily I was able to sort of, use the money that I had made to invest in myself, like in my business. Right. So that, in that sense, I was okay with not having tons of work ahead of me, because it wasn't a distraction from, number one, homeschooling my kids, and then number two, like working on myself. So that was sort of like a blessing in disguise, I think. But
definitely.
yeah. And then things started opening up a little bit towards the end of the year, last year in 2020. And I still do, family sessions, the holiday sessions for clients. So I did a lot of those, and it got me back into the swing of things. Of course, we were all masked and everything. I mean, I was masked and stuff, but
right. Sure. What are the legal limits at the moment where you are then? Are you able to, do family shoots outside and things?
Yeah, it was one of those things where nothing was ever, at least where I was, nothing was ever really enforced. So, in the beginning, I was a little bit cautious. I was like, well, I'm still very good about leaving my mask on and all that stuff, whether my families aren't, of course they're not, but it wasn't like we were being patrolled. We had curfews for a little bit.
Oh, really?
That really did it. Yeah. We had nighttime curfews, but that didn't really affect, during the daytime. And there just wasn't a lot of people out. So for a long time. And so it was okay to be out and about and be able to stay 6 feet apart and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's so surreal. Okay. It's so surreal, isn't it? That we're sitting now on different sides of the world. So I'm in the UK, you're in California, and we're talking about people wearing masks and thing, and it's so strange. This whole year has just been so insane.
It's been so insane, and it's we're going to get over this eventually, right? And in 10 years we're going to look back on this time and think, wow, we really went through that. But being in it right now, it's just, for me, it's just this heightened awareness. It's this desire to remember it, whether it's through my photos or through whatever I'm doing. I want to, because this is so it's just such a part of history that, in modern age, that this could happen to us, and I feel like me, where I'm at with my age, with my kids, I'm really able to just appreciate everything about it, the good and the bad. Yeah.
Have you been documenting it yourself and, family life during this Corona time? I
have. I mean, I've shot so much this past year. A lot of it is because I've been, doing these online classes. I mean, that's the other thing, that the access that I've had for online classes has been insane. I mean, I could take classes, in New York where, before you had to be in person to do it. And I can, I have these access to these teachers, like, my teacher in Delaware, and I did a workshop with Ninka, in the Netherlands.
Oh, and, cool. Yeah.
And I just took advantage of it,
That's so good doing that.
Yeah, it was. So in that way, that's why I think that it's been really great for me personally, just in terms of my art.
And taking those courses, then you said how it's kind of changed your direction somewhat, has it then? Has it been quite an epiphany, this online training? And
yeah, my passion in photography is documentary, taking pictures with a documentary approach. Yeah. And a lot of it before, for me, was not only learning, but it was a very literal interpretation of documentary family photography, or just any photography. Like, everything was very squared up, and everything was, the lines were straight. And, I tried to be not perfect, but just very structured in my way of shooting.
Like by the book type.
By the book, kind of, right? Yeah. And I knew what was lacking in my photography was sort of this kind of emotive or more abstract, way of capturing things, capturing emotion, or capturing a detail that maybe is not completely in focus, but that you get a feeling from it. And I knew that was lacking in what I was trying to, in what I was trying to accomplish. So I took a lot of courses, or I spent time with a lot of people who I felt were really good at that and who could give me, methods or ways of chipping into that. So I guess in the sense of saying my direction, it's more just embracing another part of me, of what I wanted to accomplish with my photography.
That's great. That's such a positive thing to have done and come from it.
I don't know that it would have happened if, say, this last year didn't happen the way it did. But rather than looking back and being like, oh, could that have happened? It was more like I just took advantage of it. I just embraced it.
That's good.
Yeah. I tried
really
to.
Good. And Lisa, then, like from the beginning, how did you become a photographer then? What has been your journey? Have you always been into photography as a kid? What's your story? Tell us your story.
I will tell you my story. No. I'm going to totally date myself now, but my parents had given me a Kodak disc camera when I was a really little kid. I don't know if you remember those. You probably weren't even born yet, but
oh no, I bet I was.
But it was a camera, and it was a square. It was like a big square. It was called a Kodak disc, and I don't even remember how it worked, but I just remember taking pictures with it and just loving it. It was like a Christmas present, like a random, Christmas present, and it kind of was just my first introduction into taking these pictures, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So, I was in high school, I took classes, I had like I think it was a Olympus camera. I would take yearbook pictures with it. I took, classes in high school and loved it, but I didn't know what I was doing. Everything was auto, and I just, took it. And after in college, I went through college, and then I traveled, met my husband or my boyfriend at the time, and we traveled a lot. And I always kind of had a camera around my neck. But my first job out of college turned out to be in advertising. So it was in, production and advertising, retail advertising. And that kind of just became the direction that I went into. More in the creative side, but not so much in photography side. And I did that for, 20 years. I was first in retail advertising, and then I worked in a creative agency, a really small boutique agency. And then I went freelancing and, did wedding invitations, branding, did all of that for a really long time. But there was always a part of me that felt like I was a farce in it. And by that, I mean, graphic design, which is what I did, was very much, you had to know how to draw, I think, to be a really good graphic designer. And I didn't know how to draw. I mean, honestly, I do not know how to draw. Stick figures are like my advanced drawing, capabilities. And I felt that it really, I just didn't have confidence in the whole thing. It felt like I wasn't good enough. I would, of course, compare myself to other people in the industry who are amazing, and they could just lift up a pen and literally draw something with a perspective that I could never, ever think about doing. And so I, had kids, and I was still freelancing, and I just decided, what, I have, like a lot of, I think, moms who picked up photography, I used, my kids were like my subjects. And I decided at one point that I was going to shut my business down because it just kind of chipped away at me so much. And the direction of graphic design at that point was just beyond what I felt like I could ever, strive towards. So
were you doing that were you self-employed doing that?
Yeah, I was self-employed. Okay. My husband and I, we sort of made the decision that once I started having kids, I would just start freelancing. And then, the income was, like negligible, but it kept me sane, as I was raising my kids. And when that kind of petered out, I mean, basically I burnt out. I said, you know what, I'm going to pick up my camera and I'm going to take it seriously. Like, I'm really going to learn how to use this thing. Because I remember in high school, talking about exposures and, the triangle and all that stuff. Like, I didn't I didn't get it. And I probably wasn't in the mindset at that point to even try to get it. I was just like, I just want to take a picture. I don't want to learn about all this, improportionate stuff. So I ended up like my husband got me a camera from Costco, one of those camera kits. It was a Nikon. Okay. And I said, all right, I'm going to really just dedicate myself to try to learn how to use this thing, like really, really intentionally. And one of the things I did that I feel like was one of the best things that I did was I found a local photographer, and I contacted him and said, can you teach me how to shoot with my camera, like in manual mode? And he's like, sure. And I gave, it was an hour lesson for $85 US dollars.
That's cool.
And I got so much out of that. I mean, it literally just opened up this massive door for me to, like, it clicked, and I think it was just at that time in my life, I was ready for it. I was ready to receive like everything that I was presented with this camera. And so from then on, I just, kind of picked up taught myself, and decided in 2017, 4 years ago or whatever, that I was going to, get my tax ID and, go into business and try this thing at it. So I if ever I had to think, well, what's the one thing that, you regret doing back when you were, I could say very easily, oh, I wish I could have taken more photo classes, or I wish I could have, concentrate on, I wanted to be a journalist. Like when I was young, I wanted to be like a newscaster, and, go into journalism. I wish, I could say all that stuff, but honestly, like it's all of that led me to where I am today, which is, maybe if I had pick up my camera earlier, I would have been burnt out by it by now,
That's so true, isn't it? Yeah, that's so true. I love that kind of thing, thinking about the different steps in life and the different effects it could have had, and that kind of butterfly effect. I love that. I love all films and series based on that kind of I love that, different timelines, like, and things.
My husband and I reference the movie Sliding Doors.
Yes, with Gwyneth Paltrow, and
with Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, we reference that movie a lot. It's like, oh, this is a sliding door moment, this is a sliding door moment, and it's so true. So everything leads up to where I am now, and I'm really like grateful for all of it. Cool. Yeah, so it's been a fun ride.
Things happen for a reason.
They do.
It's funny you mentioning Sliding Doors, because that's Gwyneth Paltrow. Is it John Hannah is in that as well? Is it?
Yes, I think
that's
so.
His name.
Right?
From Four Weddings and a Funeral, and I randomly saw him at an airport in Bristol. Yeah, wow. That's a great celebrity spot, isn't it?
I don't have many of those, so that whenever I hear someone else has it, I'm like, oh, that's exciting.
That was not a very major one there, but he is very cool. I think he's great. I love him in Four Weddings and a Funeral as well.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yes. Loved. I mean, those movies. My whole family, my kids, we're all we love movies. So anytime we have an opportunity to watch a good movie, I'm like, yeah, right there.
Oh, that's cool. It's such a great thing to do as a family, though, isn't it? We've my kids really are only 5 and 9, but we've started to do that like about once every 2 weeks, and we watch like a Disney or Pixar thing or something. It's just such a lovely bonding thing to do. Actually,
it really is, and it's so funny because we were really, really careful with my older kids, about whatever movies, and now my daughter, who's 7, I mean, she's seen it's like her vocabulary is probably just so bad in her head. Like, you just start falling off your rules and stuff after a while. So.
That's funny. They learn so much from them as well, though. They do learn so much. I think you said earlier you were showing them like 90s and 80s films. Have you shown them like the Goonies and stuff? Have they watched that?
Oh yeah, Goonies. My kids, man, sometimes I get so frustrated with them because for me, I mean, the Goonies and Gremlins and whatever, all the John Hughes movies, they were so it was what we loved back then. But for them, it's like, why is it so old looking? or why do we have to wait so long for the names to go across the screen? Like in the beginning,
that's different now, isn't it? They don't.
Oh my gosh, they don't have all that. Like the movie industry, just effects and all that stuff has completely changed. But we were like, this is how it was. This is like or the original, not the original, but this is how it was before, and look at how far it's come. But after a while they get over that, and then they really get lost in the movies, especially when it's a bunch of kids running around like being chased by pirates and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to showing my kids the Goonies. I am.
Oh gosh, Goonies. And I think it's kind of scary. Like, I don't remember it, but my kids were a little bit freaked out. So
really? Okay. Maybe I'll wait till my 6-year-old's a bit older.
I love it.
Oh yeah, because there's that Hey You Guys character.
Yes, isn't it? And then it's very dark in some parts, and but it's so fun. It's funny. It's awesome.
You mentioned Gremlins, isn't that's like a 15, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. That is. See where we come now with showing my kids like nothing's not allowed.
Oh, that's funny. I love that film. I used to adore Phoebe Cates in that film.
Yes. Phoebe Cates. So I mean, the whole story is hilarious, and I don't know. I really loved watching movies back then as a kid, and I really love that my kids appreciate the same thing about it too. Because it's a way of it's a way of escaping yourself for a couple of hours, and it's so fun, and we'll laugh together, and it's cool.
That's cool. It's really cool. One good thing about homeschooling is that as a little reward with my kids after they've homeschooled, I've been playing a bit of Super Mario with them, and just as a three of us together, and they laugh so much, and it's so lovely. It's just really
and they're gonna remember that with you.
I hope
they
so.
are. Yeah. So,
I think it's cool you were saying at the beginning of your photography journey, just that how you approached a photographer in your area. I think that's such a cool and kind of a brave thing to do as well. A lot of photographers wouldn't think to do that, I think, but I think that's such a cool thing.
I think because it is sort of a second career, I guess you can say, I learned a lot of the things that I maybe avoided the first time around, like when I was in my 20s, it was like comparing myself to everyone and being afraid to like put myself out there, and like being afraid to put work out there, or, not asking enough questions, or just stuff like that stemmed from a lot of insecurities, that of myself. And so this time around, I was older, I'd gone through, the corporate world or the agency world or all that stuff. And a lot of it didn't matter to me anymore. Like, I didn't care as much what people thought. I didn't worry so much about what I did or didn't know, because I knew that there was people out there I could ask. And so, I mean, this photographer, honestly, I forgot his name. I have it somewhere. I wrote it down, obviously, like on my check, but he was meant to be there at that time for me. You know what I mean? And it was, and he was a great teacher. He explained what I needed to know really well, very efficiently. I was in there for literally an hour, and then I walked out, and it changed my life. So I appreciate that those moments existed for me, because before I don't think I would have. I think I would have just not even noticed them.
Yeah, well, you were so proactive in arranging that, though, as well. I just think that's really cool. So many people wouldn't do it. And I bet you took so much from an hour one-to-one at that early stage in your career. You really would.
Oh, my gosh.
I remember when I did my first workshop first photography workshop, and I took so much from those 2 days. You can just get so much. It just gives you such a kind of leap forward. If you hadn't have done that, it's a massive.
It really does. And I feel like your receptors have to be really open for it, right? Like you really have to walk into somewhere and just be like, I'm going to take in every part of it as much as I can. And for me personally, I had to, sort of earn my way up to this point, because it wasn't like that for me before. Back then, hey, if I couldn't draw, maybe I should have taken drawing classes. I had a boss who could draw so well, and he's like, you just need to practice. You just need to draw. Just start drawing. And in my mind, I was thinking, I can't draw. I'm never gonna get there. And it was a block that I put on myself. And I'm like, why did I do that? Like, I probably could draw right now if I did what he, suggested I do. So I think it's just when you're ready and open for new things, it's a mindset too, right? It's like you have to really be ready for it. And I remember I purchased, this is way back in the early 2000s. It was like the first online photography classes that were, sort of starting up, and I got it, and I read it and I was like, okay. And I put it away. I didn't do anything with it. And I guess I just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, you could be right. There are times in your life, aren't there? You're more open to things.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the thing about just I found that getting older and I care less about what people think. Is it just, does everyone go through this through life? It's just kind of getting older thing? I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like with my kids, I get really frustrated. I mean, in a really like nonsensical way, because of course, as a kid, you have to go through this. You're going to, of course, care about what other people think. It's part of growing up and it's part of adolescence. And I just wish I can sort of fast forward in their brain for a second and be like, this is where you're going to be at, in a while, you're going to be okay. But that I can't do that. So, you just have to be there and like kind of remind them that it really doesn't matter what other people think if you don't care what they think. If you care what they think, that's one thing, but so.
Oh, it's so true though. And you mentioned there about comparison, and do you not feel that now, in photography? Because I know I've gone through so many stages in my photography career of that kind of comparing yourself and feeling so down at times as well. Do you not do that in a photography sense then?
I would be lying if I said I didn't do that. Of course, I look at other people's work and I'm like, oh gosh, but I think the difference is for me is that if I find myself comparing myself to somebody else, first I'll kind of remind myself, hey, it doesn't matter. But then I'll just like look into that work and I'll be like, well, why am I comparing myself with this picture? And what about it is making me feel like I'm not, good enough, or I don't feel like I'm good enough. And I kind of just see it as like, again, like an opening to how I can, not so much improve myself, but expand on what I have. Right. So
that's a very positive way of looking at it. You're such a positive person.
Oh my gosh.
Cool. I love it.
I try to be, but again, it wasn't always like this. I always thought of myself as a pessimist. I always thought, I'm like the half glass full, but again, it's like the age thing. I feel like I'm such like this old granny saying, it's the age thing, but it really is. I don't know if I can emphasize that much more. And I also think the other part of it for me is I have, my husband is really, really positive. He's like a very positive person. And he's definitely influenced my life in terms of how I feel about myself, and he's, cool. And, having a partner like that is, of course I take him for granted, but, I shouldn't, but I do. But when in times when I feel like I need, a little like nudge or a little confidence booster, like he's always there for it. And he just has this perspective. It's like, just do what you want, who cares what other people think? And it's kind of, after 20 years or whatever, it's rubbed off on me pretty well.
Oh, that's cool though. Is he there in the room now listening to you?
No, he's definitely not in the room. I wouldn't be talking about this if he was. No.
No. Oh no, it's great that you've got someone like that. It's so important.
I should credit him a lot more. He's always been just very, very supportive and very like, he's like, you are gifted and you should just go for it. So
that's when you said to him that you want to pursue this photography career, he was positive right from the beginning, was he?
Yeah, he was like, you should do it. And cool. He's he's a really good business person. I'm not. I suck at it so much. And I'm always trying to tell him, can you just, try to get me this job? And he's like, I'm busy, but I wish I had a little bit of more of that, like in me, but I don't. So he's a good balance.
Cool. Oh, well, yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? You've got the two. Yeah, it's great. On your site, Lisa, one thing you mentioned how you felt awkward having your senior portraits done and how you remember that now. And so when you're photographing kids, you try your hardest to make them feel comfortable and at ease with you, which I think is great. Can you tell us more about that? How do you get your clients and families to feel at ease with you?
I think, I remember my senior year portrait. It was really, really awkward for me and I didn't feel beautiful. And I remember seeing pictures of my classmates who, everything was like, oh, it looks so good. And I fully blame that photographer now that I'm a photographer myself. I'm like, oh, he just acted like he needed to get to the next shot, or needed to get to the next person. I remember that really, really clearly. And so for me, I really just want to slow down with, whether it's my families or the businesses that and I've learned that a lot through this past year is just slow down. Time, of course, is important, but when I'm with the family or when I'm with the person or whoever I'm with, that moment, I really just try to be present, you know, with them, and in that, in the sense of just everything, like focusing on them, talking to them, making them feel, you know, comfortable, and trying to just get to know them. And a lot of people I photograph, I know them already. So it's kind of just like catching up, and, you know, in mid-sentence, maybe I see them talking to me and with like a really genuine expression, and I'll just snap the camera. You know what I mean? And
that's cool.
I don't know. I don't really have any like super awesome techniques or anything like that.
Well,
It's
I think
like,
that overall advice of slowing down is great, I think, because I think a lot of photographers can think like when they arrive at a shoot, you know, they have to be seen to be kind of like just working and capturing, you know, photographing. But it's so much more important to have that kind of bond and making them feel at ease and understanding the subjects that you're shooting more, rather than just being like a headless chicken. And and I did that. I went through that. Absolutely. I mean, I remember when I was first shooting, like whether it was like families, you know, documentary style, I just remember going in and like trying to get every single angle. And it wasn't, and my pictures showed, you know, I've had a couple of my shots critiqued, and, you know, some of it, you know, some of them like are like snapshots, or some of them are just like, you're catching up with the moment. You're not trying to get in front of the moment. And it's so true. It's like, I look at those pictures and I'm like, that's exactly what I was doing. I was trying to chase the kid, or I was trying to chase the action or chase the moment, versus planting myself in front of it. Right. And really waiting for it. And that's one thing that I think I've really worked hard on is, anticipating, or, you know, really observing the moment for what it is, and for not so much for what I'm going to get out of it, or like what it's going to be in 2 seconds, you know? So that has shown, I think, a lot in my own family pictures. I mean, I mostly document my own family. That's cool.
Yeah. So I think in those ways it's really helped me. But you know, of course, there's moments where I'm in a shoot and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta blow through all these. But I find that oftentimes after I get the shots I need to get, then I'm able to really sit down and like do what I want to do. And those tend to be a lot of what my clients like the most. It's like, oh, you know, you got that, or you got that. And that's a really satisfying feeling as well, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And one of you, I'm talking about your work as well, and specifically one of your specific Reportage Family Awards that I particularly love, is one on a beach, and it looks like a boy is kind of shocked by a very close seagull. I think it looks like that. I love it. It really makes me chuckle. Can you tell us about that shot?
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Yes. No, thank you so much. Yeah. So that's my son. That's my third son. And we were, it was during the pandemic, and, you know, we were on the beach, and it was the first time they had been in the beach. My kids swim, they're swimmers, and they've been in the water for, you know, most of their life, but for a long time we stopped. And so that was kind of the first time we went back into the water.
Is it quite near you, the beach too?
It was pretty near. Yeah. It's about half an hour away. So I take my camera everywhere with them, and I said, okay, I'm going to really just document, this day at the beach. And he's just like a really, you know, he's a really cool character. Like, he's goofy and he's funny and he complains a lot, but he's very expressive. So I just happened to be sitting there taking pictures of him, and this bird flew over, and he had that look on his face. But, you know, if you look at it, it's not a great shot. The horizon is tilted, and I couldn't straighten it, because if I straightened it, then the bird would be cut out. And, you know, it's just like all these imperfections on this one moment. But the one thing that did show is just who he is and how he reacts to things like that. And yeah, I really like that picture too.
It's super. It's great. Really makes me chuckle. I love that expression. Yeah. And the way you've got the bird in it. It's awesome. And
thank you.
Yeah, if anyone's listening now as well, do head to thisreportagefamily.com or thisreportage.com, and I'll include that image that Lisa just spoke about. It's great. You know, you're saying about like this slanted horizon and thing though. There are some things, it's all just totally subjective, isn't it? But for some things, you know, they just don't bother me, like slanted horizon. And they always say you know, never have the horizon cross through someone's head or whatnot. I've always been like, well, I don't really understand why that's a rule. You know, it doesn't bother me. And that's what I love about photography, though. It's so subjective, isn't it? You can do what you want.
It is. It's really subjective. And one thing that I love about documentary photography is that, you know, a lot of the great photos, the rules are broken. And honestly, if I'm just shooting for myself, which I do, you know, half the time, like, I'm not submitting my thing to any, amazing, like worldly, exhibit or anything like that. So it's really just for myself and for my family and for my kids. And in that way, I feel it's almost more liberating. But I do feel like documentary photography, at least family documentary photography, a lot of things are not forgiven, but you can get away with a little bit more for the story, and it's part of the story, it becomes part of the story, and that's what's so wonderful about it, because it's about real life, and like real life, you have rules broken and you have things happen, and messes and all that stuff all the time. So
yeah, that's what makes it great to be.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great.
Imagine if we all lived by the same rules and we all took photos by the same rules, it'd be a very boring world.
Yeah. Very. And, when I first started photography, it was, I was a lifestyle photographer, and quickly realized that this is not what I wasn't good at it. First of all, like I didn't think I was good at it all, but I also just didn't feel comfortable in it. It kind of reminded me of the way I felt when I was a graphic designer, that like little nagging of me. It's like, this isn't, this isn't really me. And so when I came onto documentary photography, and then, oh my gosh, family documentary photography, I was like, like the music was blasting in my head. I'm like, this is yay.
Oh, and that's cool.
I just felt really comfortable and really at home with it.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're happy. It sounds like you're in a good place, which is cool.
I'm in a good place. Yeah, I'm really happy. Instagram, for as much slack that it gets, I personally have just gotten so much out of being on Instagram. I mean, I've met so many people, Facebook. I met you. My coworkers are people that, are documentary photographers. Like that's how, that's like my workplace.
That's really cool, isn't it? That's the beauty of it.
Cool. Yeah. Really and cool. I'm embracing it. Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Really, really cool. Really cool. Lisa, okay, let's change tack slightly. Let's change tack.
Okay. Oh,
okay.
Gosh.
Okay. No, let's go with quite a big question. It's right. I like this one. Okay. I think I word it really more complicated than it should be.
Okay.
But anyway. Okay. When you've reached old age and you're looking back at your life, what would you like to think about the life you've led?
What would I like to think about the life I've led?
It's a strange wording, isn't it? I think.
But. No, but I understand the gist of it. Definitely. I want to know that, I think I want to know, this sounds so generic, but I want to know that I made every effort to be happy, to not so much not have regrets, because, I have regrets, of course. But to like really realize that when I found myself in a place where I wasn't happy, or where I wasn't, happy with myself, that I took the time and the effort to change that. And that's really the lessons that I want my kids to have. If you ask me, in that same vein, if you're, what will make you happy as a mother, or as a photographer, as a woman, or as, that's what I just want to be happy, like to be happy with choices that I've made in my life. And that sounds like but it's not really that.
I don't think it sounds generic. I think that sounds super great way to lead life.
Yeah, because that's really just what it's about. I've realized is happiness sometimes is really hard to attain, but when you have it, it's something that you really, really can thrive off of too. And I think because my kids are younger right now, and I see them growing up, and I see them, going through similar struggles. We just want you to be happy. Does this make you happy? Are you
totally
okay?
Get that.
And the pandemic, it actually worried me in the beginning a little bit, because I didn't want my kids to go into any sort of state where they felt like they weren't, they're depressed, or that they weren't happy, or that they weren't being fulfilled in ways that I couldn't give to them, like at school. They were happy in school. So it opened my eyes a little bit more. It made me a little bit more sensitive just to, reading them a little bit more closely. And I think that came, like, I had my camera, and I think that is helped me too, right? Like, my kids are so used to me taking pictures of them, they don't really notice it anymore. But for me, I can look through my lens and just like really see expressions that they have. And I'm like, afterwards, I look at the picture and I'll be like, is this something that I should be concerned about? And I show my husband, like, this is something I should be concerned about. So in this weird way, or maybe I'm just using my camera as an excuse. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's working for me.
Oh no, that's cool. I think that's actually really interesting to think how you can. They're not aware of you photographing them, but by looking through the viewfinder yourself, you have that different kind of a very intimate look into them, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, you maybe see things that you wouldn't if you weren't photographing them. It's really quite interesting.
Absolutely, because one of the things is when you're taking a picture, you want to look at every four corners of the frame and see what's in there and like frame it and all that stuff. And I'm like, I do that. But then, you kind of notice things that you wouldn't have noticed before had you not looked in all four corners. You know what I mean? So
no, it's all really interesting. Yeah. You mentioning your kids, will they listen? Will they listen to this interview? Do you know? Will they listen?
I bet you not. I don't know, but you know what? I'm hoping I can have this a little bit down the way so that I can show them at some point and they will appreciate it.
No, definitely. I hope they listen. You deserve to listen. It'd be great. It'd be cool. So we talked about films and movies and stuff. Do you watch Netflix as well?
I do watch Netflix pretty much almost every night. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So for this, for the past few episodes of the podcast, I've just been doing a little Netflix quiz. If you want to play.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'll play, but I'm going to suck at it. I can tell you right now.
I bet you won't. But just for fun, So, okay, I'm gonna read out like a synopsis for, it's like either a series or a film. It's on Netflix, and see if you can get what I'm talking about just from the synopsis.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You ready? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. This first one is a series. This is a clue. Okay. So the synopsis is: a hot-headed widow searching for the hit-and-run driver who mowed down her husband befriends an eccentric optimist who isn't quite what she seems.
Oh my gosh. This sounds so familiar.
It's so hard, isn't it? When you think you might have seen it, but you just can't think of the name.
Yes, I am absolutely right there. I think I've seen it, but and this is the thing, Alan, when I see a movie, I have to watch it twice for me to remember. So I don't think I'm going to be a very good player in your game.
No, that's all good. It's good. Okay, that one was Dead to Me. Dead to Me is cool.
Dead to Me. Okay. All right. Gosh. Okay. Fail. 0
to 1. 0 out of 1. That's okay. You can only get better.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an older film. Okay.
Okay.
I love this film as well. So anyway. Okay. So the synopsis is: the structured world of a sour, obsessive-compulsive author crumbles when he's drawn into the lives of a stressed-out single mom and his gay neighbor.
Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
I don't even think I... Okay.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay, give me a clue.
Jack Nicholson was in it, and Helen Hunt, and they both won the best actor and best actress.
Oh my gosh, I should know this, but I don't. Okay, you have to tell me because I'm dying to know.
Still. Oh, it's as good as it gets.
Oh my gosh, I saw that. See, I told you, I saw it once though. That's why I don't remember.
Okay. You gotta watch it again.
I'm gonna watch it again. Oh,
I love that film. I think it's so. I love romantic comedy or romantic dramas. Yeah. I just love that.
Well, anything with Jack Nicholson is just, oh my gosh, mind blowing. So,
do you know what? I've never seen The Shining. I've never seen.
Oh my gosh, Alan, you have to see The Shining. Definitely not with your kids though.
No, okay. Have you not shown your kids that one? You've not shown your
No,
kids
I won't let my kids watch that one. Not yet.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. What else is it? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Is that?
Yes. One Flew Over the Cuckoo. That was so good too. Yeah. You know what? I feel like I'm a farce because I say I love movies and I watch movies and I can't even name two of the ones that you just gave me.
Let's go for the last one.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and this is
what do I have to lose?
Yeah, exactly. Right, this is a series. It's quite recent, is that okay? But this is a clue. Okay, so a zoo owner spirals out of control amid a cast of eccentric characters in this true murder for hire story from this underworld of big cat breeding.
I don't know. Oh my gosh, as soon as you said said zoo owner, I was like, okay, no, I did not see that one.
Oh, okay. That is the Tiger King. So interesting.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I did watch the first episode. Oh my gosh.
Only the first episode? Did you not
Only
like
the
it?
first episode. I couldn't get into it. I don't know why. It was so ludicrous and ridiculous. But even though it's true, I think I just was like, oh my gosh, like I think I need to watch a comedy.
Yeah, I get that. It is mental that it's actually true as well. And
it is. And I'm so embarrassed that you gave me all these great clues and I did not pick up on any of them.
Oh no, don't be sad. You see that you've either watched them or you haven't, and so no, it's all good fun. I like that though. That was good. I should have asked you some kind of like Goonies ones, or
you should have. See, I would have any John Hughes movies. You would have gotten an answer right away. No,
I'll have to have you back on the podcast in a few, about 20 more episodes, and we'll do it.
Perfect.
Okay, Lisa, let's go back to your photography as well. And you recently wrote a great piece for us in our Lasting Impact feature. About composing your frame intentionally and how what you choose to exclude is often just as critical as what you decide to include, which I think is a brilliant quote. Could you tell us more about that? For the people who haven't read the article, because I think
sure.
Yes,
absolutely. That was definitely a photo that I took and that I'm really proud of because it was a really big lesson in terms of my technical journey. Right, like I think for me personally. Having the eye, of course, is important, but I spent a lot of time really studying the technicals of it and just really understanding, not so much, the technicals in terms of how the camera works, but just more on how to compose a good picture. Because, once you know all of that, I feel like then I'm okay to break any rules, right? Like at least if I know the rules, then I can break them. But as they say, but for that picture, it was really just a moment where I had my camera and I didn't know if I was going to take pictures or not, because when I take pictures of anything that my kids are in, I tend to shoot a lot and it's kind of tiring editing. So I just decided, I'm just going to watch them for a little bit. I was laying on my belly on the grass and it was my son at the time, I think he was 9, and his team, they were playing, football, American football, and they were just warming up before a game. And they kept doing this one action over and over again. And it was, the quarterback was throwing the ball too high and all of them were trying to, touch the ball, but it was really, really thrown really high up. I think it was joking around with them or something. And they just kept going up and up and up and over and again. And I was like, okay, I'll just take a picture of this. I took probably like 20 or 25 shots of it. And I looked through the picture and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So, I posted on Instagram and I got some good feedback. But one of my friends, Karen, who's also a documentary photographer, she had commented and said, oh, that's a cool shot. And I said to her, gosh, yeah, but, it's kind of awkward crop, or, I said something like, I probably should have cropped a little bit in. And she just made a comment. She's like, yeah, maybe a smidge on the feet. And with that sort of, phrase, it triggered something in me. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I should have composed this photo completely differently. Like I should have tilted my camera higher to get really only what was the most important part of it, which is what drew my eye to it, was the relationship between the ball and the boys and their fingers, right? It's like this like outstretched moment where none of them were touching it, but it was right above them. And it just created this like really, to me, a very like exciting moment. So I recropped the picture. And at that time, National Geographic Your Shot was online. You were allowed to submit all your pictures. And if you're lucky enough, you might get an editor to comment on it or something like that. This was a couple years back. And it turns out that picture was, noticed by an editor. And I don't know, like maybe a few months later, opened up my Instagram and I had all these like tags and stuff like that. And it was featured on actual Your Shot, the Your Shot page. And
that's very cool.
To me, the first thing I thought of was Karen and how she, it's like the whole community over competition thing. She made a suggestion that maybe at the time for her wasn't a big deal, but for me, I was receptive towards it at that moment, and I was like, yes, like that's exactly what I need to do. And so, maybe it was a picture of me and my kids, a picture of my kids playing ball, or it was, nothing extraordinary, but the lesson that I got out of that made that photo extraordinary to me. And I'll never forget it. So when you
so cool.
when you gave us the opportunity to write something like that, which by the way, I want to talk about it a bit, has been, life-changing for me. That was, I grabbed at it. I was like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write it. And, Alan said I only have to write a few words, but I ended up writing like all these words. Clearly I had a lot to say about it. So,
and it's great. You're a really good writer as well.
Oh my
really
gosh.
Good.
Thank you. God, I don't think so, but I really, really appreciate that you do.
Oh, no, you really are. Yeah, really, really good writer. So, yeah, no, thank you for writing that, because I think it's such a great lesson that you teach other people there as well, really. And it's exciting as well that like images that we've shot maybe a while ago can still have so much potential when we revisit them as well.
Yeah.
The way you just cropped there, transformed it. Because I saw, I think on your Instagram story, the original shot, didn't I?
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Yes.
It was cool that you showed that though as well, and then the new version, and it's a very different and so much more impactful, that image, after you did kind of crop it.
Yeah, it almost made me feel like, gosh, like how did I not see that in the first place? But I didn't see it because I wasn't looking for it, and I only saw it because I had someone mention it to me. But that's been my journey especially in documentary photography. That's how it's been for me. It's like someone says something that triggers something in me that makes me look into it more. And that's just something that you can carry on through life in any aspect. It doesn't have to be photography or art. It could be a lesson, or it could be, it's like one of those chain reactions, right? Like, and I think the key is noticing it and then acting upon it, right? You can notice it and just be like, oh yeah, I noticed that. But then to make an effort to go that way, you never know what's going to happen on the other side. And in this case, something really great happened to me. Like I will never probably ever be featured on Nat Geo Your Shot anymore, but I don't care because, it's like,
you've done it. You've been there. It's awesome. That's proper awesome. And as you said, you've said a couple of times in this episode, which I think is awesome, you need to be receptive, and you really have been. And so that's, you could have so much advice given to you or different things mentioned, but if you're not receptive to it, then it's kind of pointless. So it's great that you have been.
Yeah, definitely that, And there's plenty of things I've blocked, believe me. It's really only what I'm really passionate about. So, but I mean, cool. I think passion goes a long way, right? Like if you're interested in something, it can go a long way for you. So.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And again, if anyone's listening now, whilst I always say doing the pots, I listen to podcasts while washing the dishes a lot. But if you're doing that or driving or anything, do head to the site, and I'll include that image that Lisa just spoke about there as well, and the link to what she wrote about it. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
Lisa, this is so cool. I think this is again, time has flown by. It's been so lovely talking to you.
It has really flown by. And before I leave, I just want to say that so I was listening to Rowena's podcast with you, and she had said something that really, I received very well. She had called 2020, these little things, she called them pandemic fruits, right? Like good things that came out of it. And I thought, oh my gosh, like there were so many, I had an orchard last year, and there were so many fruits that I was, picking off of. And one of them was, you and, this is Reportage Family. And you really helped me with my writing, actually. I mean, I remember the first time you asked for article submissions, and I remember it was, what do photographs mean to you, right?
Oh yeah.
And I submitted. I was nervous, of course, but I wrote it. And I think a lot of what my photography journey stems from is the fact that I don't have pictures of myself as a kid, just doing my kid thing. I have, typical pictures of me and my family standing and smiling at the camera like everybody else does. But I don't have pictures of me in my room. I don't have pictures of me in my living room. I don't remember what my childhood room looks like. I remember like flashes of them in my memory, like little snapshots in my memory. But if you ask me about any detail, I can't tell you anything. And so that was sort of the opening paragraph of what I had written about. It's like the reason why I'm so obsessed about documenting my family or taking pictures of my kids is because I didn't have that for myself. And, through that article, I mean, I've used that paragraph in like in other, like my artist statement, or in like, cool. I have like a long-term project proposal that I just put into, and it's truly, what it is, what photography is about for me. I want my kids to have I don't want them to have snapshots of their memories. Like, I want them to actually have a photo that they can look at and be like, oh yeah, I remember that was what my bed looked like, or that's what my, we used to drape blankets all over the bunk bed, or whatever it is. And I have you to thank for that, because if you had never asked for that, I never ever would have written that, and it was an excuse for me to brush off the keyboard and just start typing.
Oh, that's lovely of you to say, but I'm sure you would have written that. And it's so cool though that you do, because as I said before, you do write really, really well. Like, you do though, really well.
Thank you
should
so
write
much.
A book to include your images and words about them, because you do though. You're really a talent for both. But yeah.
Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I appreciate you very, very much.
So. Oh, well, you're very lovely, very lovely. And it's been so lovely to talk to you, because we've never spoken before. I had no idea what you sounded like, and it's just so lovely hearing your voice. It's so cool.
Well, now I feel like you're my best friend, so I'm really happy.
It's so lovely. You're so lovely. I hope we get to meet up in the real life one day. That would be very cool. I
would love that so much. And yes.
Have you ever been to England?
I have. My husband and I are really huge proponents of traveling with our kids, and so we've taken them to, so luckily have taken them to London, and we've been to Europe a few times, and I just think that's another way for them to see the world and see that they don't live in this bubble that they live in, and really open the eyes. So and I've been twice, but it's not my last 2 times. I definitely want to go back. So when I do, I'm going to knock on your door.
That'd be very cool. Definitely very welcome. You're very welcome. Very welcome. I've never been to California. I've been to America 5 times, but really guilty. I've only ever been to Vegas. I know that's so bad, isn't it? It's so bad.
Oh my God. Well, Vegas is definitely a trip worth going to, but you have to come to California. You must.
I would love to. I would really love to do that. Yeah.
I will take you around. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so cool. Definitely. I would love that. Definitely. Very cool. Oh, Lisa, it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being so open and so interesting and so eloquent. It's been really
my gosh. Thank you so much. This is a highlight of my career.
Oh, so you're very kind. You're very kind. It's just been so lovely. It's really lovely.
It really has. I enjoy talking to you about this, about my journey. It kind of reminds me to appreciate where I'm at right now. So it's a little reminder for me too.
That's cool. And I've really enjoyed it. And I'm sure people who've been listening must have really enjoyed it too. And as I said before, do head to the site, and I'll include the Reportage Family Award that Lisa spoke about, and that image that has had an impact on her as well. And just thanks so much for your time again, Lisa, and all the best for this year. Let's hope it's a bit of a better one for us all.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Alan. Best of luck to you, and keep doing what you're doing by elevating this amazing genre as high as it is. So
Thank
keep
you.
On going.
Thank you. Thanks for being such an ace part of it. And hopefully the next joint article, hopefully you'll write again, because you do write so well.
Oh, thank you. And please come back to me with the Netflix quiz, okay? Because I cannot go out like this with my movie failures.
We'll do it. We'll do an encore. We'll do a special Lisa episode.
My next focus. Yes, I'm going to be watching Netflix 10 hours a day just to get up to par. No, thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Lisa. See you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the 66th episode. I can't say 66th. 66th episode of the This is Reportage podcast. Lisa was such a delight to chat to. Hope you enjoyed listening. Head to thisreportagefamily.com or thisreportage.com to see a link through to her website, as well as the specific Reportage Family Awards she spoke about and the lasting impact image too. We have lots more episodes of the podcast available, where we speak to family and wedding photographers from all over the world, delve into our back catalogue to hear from the likes of Olivier Bolt, Christian Levin, Els Corsten, Linda Bauricius, Frank Boutonnet, Sitlali Rico, The Framers, Katrin Kuhlenberg, David Scholes, and many more too. If you're not yet a member of This Reportage or This Reportage family, check out all the benefits of joining us, including an unlimited number of images on your profile, 60 individual award and 18 story award entries per year, invites to our physical meetups and parties, exclusive discounts, hours of educational videos featuring tips and advice from some of the world's best photographers, and much more. Submissions are now open for our second collections of 2021. The deadline is the same for both our wedding site and our family site. Submit by 23:59 GMT on 24th of March 2021. No poses, nothing staged. This is Reportage. And this is bye for now.